This morning on BRN Retirement, is Social Security going bankrupt? Part one of our conversation. Joining me now, welcome back to the program, Andrew Larson of the Retirement Learning Center. Andy, so great to see you again. Thanks for joining us on the program this morning.
Appreciate the opportunity to chat with you.
So I'm trying to recall, to date, you and I have talked about retirement income. We've talked about expanding coverage, I think, and several other retirement or employer-sponsored retirement plan topics. Today, you and I are going to talk about Social Security. So once again, we expand our repertoire. We expand my repertoire and, of course, yours. I guess basic question for Andy. Will Social Security go bankrupt?
No.
Okay. Interview over. No, kidding. Go ahead, Andy.
Well, first of all, the term bankrupt is the wrong term. That's a term associated with corporations. The concept, it's just non sequitur in terms of a governmental program. So no, Social Security will not go bankrupt.
And that basically means promises made, promises kept, in some way, shape, or form. And we'll talk about maybe reform in our second segment. But in some way, shape, or form, if you have paid into Social Security, you're going to get out of it what you paid in according to your retirement age and a whole host of other parameters. Is that correct?
You will get your Social Security benefit. However, that benefit may be adjusted downward if over the long term, Congress doesn't make changes.
Okay, so I want to go back. Let's do a little bit of history. I know you're a man of many talents, very intellectual. What's the history of Social Security? Just for maybe people who don't know, didn't learn about it in civics class in high school like you and I probably did a long time ago. What's the history of the program?
Sure. The history of the program was part of Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal, getting the country out of the Great Depression. The impetus behind it was an extremely high rate of poverty amongst the elderly. This program was designed initially to help reduce the poverty rate amongst elderly Americans. And to that policy end, the program has been amazingly successful.
And Andy, it is, I would say it's viewed successfully, but also it is quite popular. I mean, if you are a retiree today, you're drawing from Social Security and maybe your own savings and an employer-sponsored retirement plan, but it is viewed very favorably by those that receive the benefit.
Absolutely. And not only for retirees, Social Security also covers dependents, survivors, beneficiaries, disabled Americans. It is virtually a global program protecting Americans in many aspects of their financial life.
So Andy, how does it work? I think I have an idea. You know, I've been around the block a few times. I've paid into Social Security my entire working life. How does it work today? So if if I have an employer, if I'm an employee of an employer, how does it work?
Social Security was and is a pay-as-you-go system. It was always designed this way, that a whole bunch of money comes in and a whole bunch of money goes out to pay benefits. Now, because there were so many baby boomers, in the early 80s, we had to modify the system to increase Social Security taxes beyond what was necessary to pay benefits. So since the early 80s, Social Security has had more money coming in than going out. Social Security ended up accruing a $2 trillion plus set of trust funds that were just tapped last year to start help making sure benefits continue to get paid.
And Andy, does that money, so PAYGO essentially means money comes out, people are probably very familiar with the Social Security tax out of their payroll check. And there are some examples where people employees of certain organizations don't actually pay into Social Security. We can talk about that in a second, but people are probably very familiar. There's Social Security taxes withheld on your paycheck, along by the way with other taxes, and then that money then gets funneled to pay benefits to those who are eligible today. Is that correct?
Absolutely. To put some numbers on it, about $1.2 trillion comes in every year. And as of the last report, about $1.3 trillion is paid out.
And Andy, who is not eligible? So I've always worked in the private sector, so when I think of like a corporation or work for myself, I've always paid in, but there are some groups of employees that are not eligible for this benefit.
Traditionally, certain groups of employees were not covered. For example, governmental employees, educational employees, some religious employees. The numbers of employees that are not covered has been going down and down and down. In other words, more and more employees are now covered, to the point that those that are outside of Social Security are pretty small, respective of the overall population.
And Andy, just to kind of follow up on, I guess, the way it's structured, the pay-go, a lot of people throw around the term Ponzi scheme. This isn't that. A Ponzi scheme, by definition, or pyramid scheme, very different the way this is structured. Is that correct?
Absolutely. The Ponzi scheme is just what it implies. It's just a scheme where somebody's going to make off with a lot and a bunch of people are going to get stuck holding the bag. Social Security, if you go back to the committee reports in the 1930s, it's a pay-as-you-go system. It's a generational income transfer program where younger workers pay for the retirement benefits of the older workers. And that's the social compact. That's the social construct. And I suppose, Jeff, if we have cynics then who think that's a Ponzi scheme, well, for those poor souls, I guess it's a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, look, I mean, we all have our perspective and our own biases, and we apply them over as a lens over everything. But in pure definition, it sounds to me like it is not what I would typically think of a Ponzi scheme. Andy, let's talk a little bit about the benefit, and I know we're running out of time, but we're going to bring you back tomorrow to talk about maybe some reform ideas. But as a benefit, why does retirement age matter so much to what I actually get in retirement from Social Security?
Yeah, the retirement age is one of the key elements that affects the cost. For example, some countries have retirement ages at 60. In China, they used to allow women to retire at 50. So that's kind of the key point is it's a cost thing. Everybody liked to get Social Security earlier. Well, fine, but that would increase the cost. So it's like anything else, it's a political compromise.
It is, and just kind of wrapping up this segment, Social Security, there's a cost of living adjustment, I believe, but by and large, this is a baseline benefit. So the other things that you and I and others on this network have talked about, the 401k, the pension, your own savings, they are kind of on top of that. I mean, Social Security maybe doesn't go as far as many people think, especially if you're going to live longer.
Absolutely. Social Security was never intended to be the primary benefit, the exclusive benefit for a retiree. It was to provide a floor, a very basic floor, and also, as you noted, to provide a benefit that an individual could not outlive.
Yeah. I mean, I think my personal opinion is there's a lot of education needed. I think we're doing that today. I think others are doing it as well in terms of what this benefit, and kind of escape from the political rhetoric and get to the more meaningful content about what the program is, how it's designed, and what you need to do to get it, but also what you need to do in addition to it. Andy, we're going to have to wrap up this segment, but we're going to bring you back tomorrow to pick up the conversation. When we come back tomorrow, we're going to talk about ideas for reform. What can we do? You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN. Andy, Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow morning.
Thank you very much, sir.
And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, for all the news in one place. Details, of course, at our website. And as I said, we're back again tomorrow for part 2 of our conversation about Social Security. You're not going to want to miss this one. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.